If you've been trying to buy a home in Northeastern Wisconsin and you've been struggling to get your offer accepted, this episode is for you. Today, I've got a special guest, Adam Cook from Nations Lending, and he's got some great programs that are actually helping people get into the winner's circle. Adam, thanks for joining us today. I'd love to find out more about what we can do from a lending perspective on helping buyers actually win in a very tough market.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to kind of sharing some info today.
Yeah, excited to have you on as well. I know that there's a program that Nations Lending has that a lot of other lenders aren't really paying attention to, and that's a program that you were telling me about. It's called the ACE program. Can you kind of give me an idea of what that program is?
Yeah, so what our ACE approval process looks like, essentially, it's a different way for us to go about setting up a borrower's pre-approval, right? So when we're looking at pre-approval strategy and we're looking at the logistics or the flow of that, we're doing an application, pulling credit, rounding up some, basic documentation. And a lot of times we can just run an automated underwriting system, checks the borrower's scenario against the rules of the program we're trying to use, and we can just spit out a quick pre-approval, right? We can realistically do that process in less than a day. It's very quick. We're very digitally driven, so that's really simple. But if we want to take things above and beyond, we can do what's called an ACE approval, right? So what that is essentially is we're going to not just round up the basic documentation, we're going to get everything, right? We need a borrower that is really kind of engaged in the process and trying to set themselves apart, because we are going to need, all the asset documentation, all the income documentation, whether it's current or historical. But then we're going to physically go and submit that file to underwriting for a full review. And then we're going to get back basically an already conditionally approved file. So then we can go and get into the offer kind of component of the process, where we can really be committing to a really fast turn time. With the market being as competitive as it is, there's a lot of sellers that are looking to get their money fast. There's a lot of cash buyers that are out in the market. So when you have this financing component, you have that financing contingency that's going to exist. The average lender probably wants 40 to 45 days in order to get a deal done. They can maybe stretch it to get to 30 to 35. But if we have this ACE approval and we've already got the initial underwriting done, we're basically saying, hey, you've got a pre-commitment. We've already reviewed all income and assets. All we need is an appraisal and a contract, and we're going to be ready to go. We can go say, hey, you want to close in 3 weeks? Cool, let's do it. You want to close in 2 weeks? We could probably still do that too. Going to have to rush the appraisal most likely. But in theory, you can write really aggressively compared to a more standard pre-approval that doesn't already have that pre-work done. And we're finding a lot of success with getting offers accepted with that component kind of behind the scenes already happening.
Yeah, because I know you actually call the listing agents too when you have offers, when your clients are writing offers on properties, and explaining to them the importance of that ACE program. And I almost feel like if you're a first-time home buyer, it can be a stressful process, but to have all of your I's dotted and T's crossed is so powerful. But then for you to be able to call the listing agent when sometimes they're receiving, 5 to 10, sometimes even more offers, you've got to get any way possible to stand out. And, I feel like every buyer should actually be doing this proactively. I think there's a lot of lenders, like you said, that are doing, the 1 hour, take the initial stuff, but not collect all the documents. But I think you could save a lot of heartache and headache and just have a better chance of winning by being more thorough. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. On top of being able to write, obviously, that faster closing timeline, the other thing that it allows us to do from a lending perspective is already have kind of navigated and understood any hurdles that might be out there, right? As much as we try and do our jobs as perfectly as we can, there's little intricacies in how qualifying income is calculated, or there can sometimes be let's call it like a big large deposit or something like that in an asset statement that needs to be documented and sourced, paper trailed, whatever you want to call it. But we have to really kind of, like you said, dot all those I's, cross all those T's, and we've already got that done. Then it allows me to communicate to the seller how strong of a buyer this is, right? Which is super important. I had a buyer recently looking in the under 200K price point, right? The classic first-time home buyer spot. He wrote on multiple properties where he was one of like 15 to 20 offers. There was one where he was 24, one of 24 offers. And even with the, extra diligence of the conversation with the agent to make sure they understood how strong of a buyer that was, the way their offer stacked up, we got the feedback they weren't even in the top 8. So I mean, it's hyper competitive, and it's really just about what are these little things that we can do, to really try and make that offer stand out. And the finesse of that extra communication and service, from my perspective, is a really easy thing for me to do, and kind of have that conversation with the selling agent to make sure that they understand, that we've got a concrete buyer that's ready to go.
Yeah, and I just feel like the peace of mind that comes along with doing the hard work up front goes a long way, and also gives them such a better chance. So if you are considering purchasing a home in Northeastern Wisconsin, if you can take one thing from this, is that you want to make sure you work with a lender like Adam Cook from Nations Lending, who is putting things through the ACE program where you can completely get underwritten, basically do all of the hard work up front so that you can have a stronger pre-approval letter so that you can have a chance to win in a super competitive real estate market. But Adam, we're so grateful to have you on today, and excited for people to take more advantage of the ACE program.
Yes, sir.